Hello everyone, this video tutorial is related to identifying your research topic. So these are the easiest way or the easiest steps that helps you in identifying your research topic. So first of all, what you should identify, these are the basically key points you should consider. Okay, so the first key point is this, that you should identify your research interest, such as, let's suppose if your research domain is related to marketing, you must identify the topic that are relevant to marketing. You identify the keywords. So let's suppose if your research interest is related to consumer behavior, you must identify the keywords related to that particular behavior. Let's suppose you want to identify the purchase intention, you want to identify the word of mouth, you want to identify the customer engagement behavior, you want to identify consumers mobile banking adoption, and then so on. The last point of this is that you should use Google Scholar to search recent paper related to that particular area of your interest. Okay. So you should focus good publishers, such as you can download the paper from Emerald, JSTOR, Taylor & Francis, Elsevier, Sage, InterScience, Wiley, and Thankfully. Okay, then what you should look in those papers you download. You first look for the research instrument, whether they provided a questionnaire or not. What is the country of study? What was the purpose of study? What kind of theory they used? What are the name of the variables? How much sample they gathered, what kind of statistical analysis they performed, and what are the limitations of that study. Okay, you should consider limitations of the study, because the limitations of that particular study could be the area of research of your study. And you can simply use Sci-Hub to download the papers if you are unable to download it directly from Google Scholar. Now let's perform this whole activity in Google Scholar. So what you have to do is you first open Google Scholar. Let's suppose you selected mobile banking adoption. Now, as I told you that you have to identify the paper that are most recent in that particular area, so I'm just selecting since 2021 from this left panel. Now there are few papers on that particular screen. I can see the name of the publishers here. This paper was published by Elsevier. I cannot see the name of the publisher here. I cannot see the name of the publisher here. Here again it's Elsevier. Again it's Elsevier, and then it's from Emerald, and then Elsevier, and then Emerald, and then so on. You can see the papers from here. Now let's suppose I like this paper and I want to download this paper. I will just copy the name of this paper and I can use Sci-Hub. It could be .ren, it could be .se, so you have to check which URL works for you. So I'm just trying to open this paper from the title. Sometimes it does not open from the title, so what you have to do is you have to open this paper in open link in new tab, and you have to copy this URL to download this paper. Alright, so now this is the paper. I'm just downloading it, and let's suppose paper for video. Now I will open this paper on PDF-Adobe to highlight the important points. Alright, you should use PDF-Adobe because it provides you the option of highlighting the important information. So what kind of information I have to see? I'm just again showing you the slide that you must see that whether they provide the research instrument. So first I will see that they provided the research instrument or not. So I'm just scrolling it down to scan for the information of the questionnaire. That is also called research instrument. So I can see the table here in which the name of the variables are written and there are few statements related to that particular area. There is no word related to questionnaire written over here, so it does not mean that it is not questionnaire. It is questionnaire because I can see the items of this variable here. So these are this is the basically scale of access convenience, and then again I can see the scale of search convenience, evaluation convenience, and so on. So basically they provided the research instrument. Now after I have to see the country of study, purpose of the study, theory, variable, sample size, statistical analysis, and limitations. So what I have to do is I have to first read the abstract of the paper, because sometimes authors provide that particular information in the abstract as well. So the purpose of the study is to investigate the effect of online convenient dimensions, mobile banking adoption using a comprehensive mediated moderation framework. What I have to do is I have to highlight this information because this information is important for me. A total of 446 responses from Indian banking users were received using systematic sampling. I can see the sample size as well and the country of study as well, that is India, and I can see their target audience, that are those who are banking users. So what I have to do is I have to highlight this information as well. Now what kind of analysis they performed? Structural equation modeling. I have to highlight this as well because this is also an important information. Now I have to see the name of the variables. I can see the name of the variables in the research model as well, that access convenience, search convenience, evaluation convenience, and so on. And what I have to do is I have to identify the definitions of these variables in the paper by using Control F. Said what does it mean by access convenience, or what does it mean by search convenience, and then so on. So I can easily get this information from this paper as well by using Control F, or you can see the headings of search convenience as well. Let's suppose they provided that search convenience refers to the time and effort required to identify and collect information about a specific product or service. You must know the definitions of the variables that they use in the paper. So you have to highlight all the definitions of that particular variables. Now what you have to see, you have identified country of study, you have identified purpose of study, you have identified variables, you have identified sample size, you have identified statistical analysis, and now what you have to see is you have to identify theory and limitations of the study. So majority of the time they provided the information of theory in chapter number 2 of the paper, and sometimes they provided the information in the last few paragraphs of introduction, or it could be in the abstract as well. So I'm just looking the information of theory in chapter number 2. I can see a heading of theoretical support, and in this paragraph or in this heading they provided the information that they use SOR theory, that is stimulus organism response theory. I will highlight this information as well because this information is also important for me. Okay, so if you didn't identify the information of purpose of the study in the abstract, then you have to look the purpose of the study in the introduction section. It will also present at the bottom of the introduction. In the last few paragraphs of the introduction you can say, so let's suppose I'm going to search the objective of the study or the purpose of the study. So you can see that specifically we propose an empirically test a conceptual model that demonstrates the role of this. No, this is not particular objective. I'm just searching, I'm just scanning the information in this paragraphs. Yes, this is basically the objective. Okay, I will highlight this information or by using this highlighted option. Alright, now, and if I don't find the information of statistical analysis in in abstract, then I have to see the information in chapter 4 or chapter 5. So I'm just scanning the information. I can see they use structural equation modeling. It could be regression, it could be correlational, it could be multi-group analysis, and so on. So whatever the statistical technique they use, you have to highlight the names of those particular statistical techniques. And if you don't find the information of data in abstract, then you can identify the information related to the demographics or the information of the country or the sample size of the study in your methodology section. So you can see the methodology section here, and you can see that they can gather the data from India, and then so on. You get the further information of this in this paragraph. Now I'm just going to identify the limitations of the study. Limitations of the study are always present at the bottom of the paper. So I'm just going at the bottom of the paper. It's not necessary that always authors provide that heading of limitations. If there is no heading of the limitations, you must read the few last paragraphs of the paper to identify the paragraph that is related to the limitations of the study. So I'm just going to read this paragraph as they provided the heading of limitations and directions for future research. Okay, why I'm reading these limitations? Because the limitations of that particular paper would be helpful in determining my research model and in determining the area for future research, or it could be my area for future research as well. So I'm just reading this information. The study has limitations that future research may resolve. The responses were collected from Indian banking consumers only. In future, researchers can replicate this framework in other countries for better generalization of the findings. So first, they suggested to replicate this study in other countries as well. Alright. Further, due to the technological advancement in the banking context, consumers' behavior is a dynamic phenomenon, and hence another limitation is this: a study relies on the cross-sectional survey-based data, which does not enable detecting cause and effect relation between variables. Future researchers can use alternative methods such as longitudinal study or experimental study to overcome these limitations. So what they suggest, that they used cross-sectional design, and we can use longitudinal design or experimental design to overcome these limitations. Okay, this is also the point. Okay, after this they provided some other information as well. Our study has opened multiple avenues for future research. First, we use hedonic value and utilitarian value as mediators. However, consumers also seek other benefits while choosing a channel, such as social benefits, which can be considered as a mediating variable for future studies. Okay, so what they suggest to replace hedonic and utilitarian values by social benefits. So by this, I can simply change the model of this particular paper of the study by adding social benefits and removing hedonic and utilitarian benefits. Okay, later they suggested that future study can use different moderating variables such as consumer involvement and personal innovativeness for more insightful findings. So they suggested two other variables as well in changing this research model of this study, such as they said to add moderating variables such as consumer involvement and personal innovativeness, and then so on. They provided so many other information related to this. So let me show you the research model of this paper again. You can see that they used perceived hedonic value and perceived utilitarian value. We can replace these two variables by adding social benefits here. They use perceived security concern as a moderator. We can use personal innovativeness and involvement as a moderator here. So by reading the limitations of the study, you can simply modify the research model of that particular paper. And let's suppose if you don't find the relevant information in the limitations of the study, you should identify more papers related to that particular area in identifying or in developing a research model. I hope this video will help you in identifying your research model and research framework of the study, and thank you so much.